Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Dynasty Trade Titans. We've got another special guest on with us today. Thank you all for coming out. We can't be more excited to get into all your Dynasty trades. If you guys have not already joined the free Discord, this is where you're going to be able to submit your Dynasty trades so that we will review them for you every single week. We'll learn more about CJ in just a moment, but to kick us off right out of the gate, we've got a 12-team Superflex PPR start 11. Start 9. Are you taking Brian Thomas Jr. or Rome Odunze in a late first-round pick?
That's a fun one, I'll be honest. Two young, talented players, both really good dynasty assets that were probably taken high in their respective rookie drafts. Me personally, I like the Rome side. I know he just put up a fat goose egg, so maybe that owner's trying to scramble, I guess you could put it. But the late 26 first plus Odunze for Brian Thomas Jr. is very enticing. So that's my side. I also fear that Brian Thomas Jr. is going to get stuck with Shane Waldron a little bit longer because the Jags are semi-successful. I mean, he's the whole reason Brian Thomas Jr. is not a top 10 fantasy wide receiver anymore.
Don't get me started on the Shane Waldron thing here, my friend. He was the offensive coordinator in Seattle for far too long, and I think that spelled the end of Russell Wilson's reign over there in one swift hiring right there.
Yeah, I just think he's going to be around another year, and Brian Thomas is going to be a very similar player next year. So I think I'd happily take Rome in the late 26th first.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to agree with you on this one. Hate to be boring, but I do love Rome Odunze. Loved his prospect profile at University of Washington. I do understand that this Bears offense is going to be up and down as far as who's going to get a lot of the workload and the usage. So that's obviously going to be something that shakes out a little bit more over time as we get used to the Ben Johnson offense. But I as well am taking the Rome side. Talk a little bit to me about this, CJ. I know we're talking about two players that, like you mentioned, one just came off another down week in Rome Odunze. One is kind of having a down season altogether in Brian Thomas Jr. How are you viewing both of these assets right now? Like, are you panicked at all on Rome? Are you panicking on Brian Thomas at all? Where do you land on these guys?
I don't think panicked is the right terminology I would use. I just think frustrated is the better way I'd put it. Rome Odunze's frustrations are due to how good he's been this season. Like we saw the first 3 games. He was dominant, the clear-cut guy. And I think once more film got out of how the Ben Johnson offense was going to roll in Chicago, he kind of got covered up a little bit more, therefore allowing Olamide Zaccheaus to start playing really well, which is insane that he's had some sort of fantasy upside this year. But I think he's going to be just fine. DJ Moore is going to get aged out at some point, and Rome has got a high wide receiver 1 upside in Dynasty going forward, in my opinion. BTJ, like I just expressed, little more frustrating. He's got a down year because he's got a bad offensive coordinator, and I don't see that changing anytime soon because the Jags are winning games. So I don't think I'd necessarily panic. BTJ is such a talented player. We all saw what he can do. So unless you get the right deal, I'm fine holding. Just frustrated.
Yep, I'm with you here. I guess a more interesting question, and, putting you on the spot a little bit, but I'm not going to lie. I feel like Brian Thomas Jr. and Rome are actually dangerously close for me in my Dynasty rankings right now. Is that a conversation that you've let sneak into your mind so far? Where do you land on that? Is it still Brian Thomas as the edge, or where do you land here?
I think Brian Thomas Jr. still has the edge for now. We still have another, 9 weeks of football left to go. So, yes. And who knows? Rome might make the Bears might make the playoffs at this point, so he might get even more time to play. But yeah. I think right now BTJ sits maybe 1, if not 2 spaces above Rome of where I'd rank him in terms of dynasty awesome receivers. They're both top 10. I can tell you that much. But I think BTJ still has the edge for now. Not by much, though.
No, that's awesome, man. I'm glad we're on the same page there. I think I'm going to give Brian Thomas Jr. the edge ever so slightly, but especially like you mentioned in that trade, if I'm getting a first on top of it, it's an easy smash accept. All right, the next one, we're going to dive right into a 12-team Superflex PPR start 11, so a little bit of a deeper format. we're talking about a bunch of quarterbacks that are super relevant right now. Jaden Daniels got hurt last night. You hate to see it. You never wish that on a man. But another quarterback who's had a meteoric rise this season is Drake May. So I was having this conversation the other day saying, is it crazy to think Drake May could go above Jaden Daniels in startup drafts next offseason anyway? Now that we've got the injury there, where do you land on this trade? Would you be taking Drake May here and paying an extra third on top of Jaden Daniels to keep your season alive and get Drake May? Or are you saying, no, I'll capitalize on the hype train. I'm taking Jaden Daniels, trusting the process. Where do you land on this one?
See, I don't even think a third is that much. Like, maybe that's just me as a Dynasty player. If it's not a 1 or a 2, I'm not going to die on either side of the fence for that pick. I see it as a valuable, expendable piece because a lot of people do value a third rounder. So I would take Drake May. I think, especially if you're a competing Dynasty team in a super flex format, yeah, I think it's Drake May all day. And that's not just because Jaden Daniels is hurt. I've always said that Drake May was the more talented player. And that was me as a Giants fan getting ready for those prospective rookies in that awesome class with Caleb, Jaden, and May. I thought we were going to have one of those guys, so I did a lot of research into him. And Drake May was always the player that I wanted. He's mobile. He's got a really good arm. He's precise. I think the best thing about May is he gets it done. He's one of the guys that is going to lay on the ground before he gives up and loses the game. He's an unbelievable player. And that's not the knock from Jaden. I just thought that Jaden had a lot more talent with him at LSU, and that's why he got played up a little bit more and went higher in the draft. Both phenomenal players, but regardless, I'm taking May in the trade. I think May is going to bloom, and especially with that high rushing upside now, I think he's going to bloom into a top 5 Dynasty quarterback within the next year.
Yep. I'm going to be boring here. I got to agree with you. I do think that Drake May is an incredible talent. I really like what he's getting done, like you said, sticking in hard competitive games, putting it in the effort both in the air and on the ground, fighting for his teammates out here. I just think I also love the coaching and the system around him. Like, I was a big Mike Vrabel fan while he was in Tennessee. I thought he got way more out of that team than that team ever deserved to be, putting on display for us. And to be quite frank, when Seattle, my favorite home team, obviously, as you know, was doing the head coach search just a year back after the Pete Carroll firing, it was kind of between a couple names out there. And Mike Vrabel was a guy that was pretty high on my list. So I think overall, I'm with you here. I'm going to lean Drake May. And I don't think that's just recency bias. I think that might continue on to the offseason here. So the next one that we got coming up here is an interesting one because we're talking about another couple of really relevant guys right now. Guys that are, whether they're putting the world on display in the running game with Javonte Williams or if they're getting a nice little resurgence with Joe Flacco over there in Cincinnati. We've got Jordan Mason, a 26 first and third, a 27 first and third, moving for T. Higgins and Javonte Williams. And obviously, if you're making this trade, you're definitely a contending roster, I'd have to assume, to be able to go all in here. But are you paying 2 firsts for plus Jordan Mason for T. Higgins and Javonte Williams here?
Man, 2 firsts is steep. I will say that. I love T. Higgins. He's been a great player ever since he's gotten to Cincinnati. And the craziest thing about T. Higgins is he just makes it work. I don't know how. Any quarterback he's had, whether it's Browning, Flacco, Burrow, the guy will find a way to mock somebody and get in the end zone. He doesn't need a million targets like Jamar Chase does. He'll take a good 5 for 80 and a touchdown. And with him only being, 26 years of age, 27 years of age? Yeah. Something like that. Still fantastic young receiver. Javonte Williams was a player that I loved coming out of college. When he went to Denver, I thought he was going to be amazing. That first year, I was right. Everything after that, not so much. So I'm very happy to see him get his career revived in Dallas, as painful as it is to watch him run over my team twice a year. Great. Love the guy. Jordan Mason is a piece that I feel is very expendable. Very talented. He sits right in that same prime dynasty age as well, where he's like 25 or 26. But I think we've seen his ceiling. Minnesota's always going to operate as a 2-back system. He's never going to get the receiving work. It doesn't matter if Aaron Jones goes down. They'll just find another guy to catch the balls. So unless Jordan Mason is averaging a touchdown, I think he's movable. The 2 firsts is what grabs me. I think that's where it gets steep, especially if those picks are early to middle of the pack. But if you're a contender, I don't mind this deal. It's expensive, but I don't mind it. I prefer to try to flip one of those ones into a 2 maybe, and then I'd definitely be more okay with it on either side. But I don't mind it. I think if I was on the spot right now, I'd probably take it if I was a contender. Like if you're real shot sure gonna win, I'd take it.
Yep. I could totally see your side. I mean, for me, I couldn't agree with you more on the Jordan Mason piece. I think Jordan Mason is just his value is already peaked. I don't think it's going any higher than it was right after the Aaron Jones injury happened. And on top of that, I have been talking about this, but if you were a Jordan Mason owner going into this season, you got everything you were hoping for. You know, you were getting the Aaron Jones injury. You're getting on top of that a chance for him to take over as the lead back, show him everything he's got. Then J.J. McCarthy gets hurt, so they have to lean on the run game even more. And even then, you know, what did we see? About 12.5 points per game on average. And that's a little generous depending on your scoring
with the
format.
Exception, with the exception of that Minnesota game where he got 2 goal line touchdowns. I mean, he probably averaged 11 points.
Yeah. And honestly, I don't, really rate him as a top back anyway. A lot of people were, ready to hop on the Glaze train this offseason and say Jordan Mason has overtaken Aaron Jones right away, and there's no looking back. He's going to be the running back of the future in Minnesota. I don't think people understand. He's on a 2-year contract. They can get out whenever they want. This is not a guy that I view as a stable dynasty asset. So from that side of it, I'm completely with you. I don't think that he's worth a whole lot here. On the other side of it, though, I will actually say I'm not willing to pay 2 firsts for T. Higgins and Javonte Williams. And I think the Javonte Williams part is what interests me. He could re-sign in Dallas, which would be great, assuming Jerry Jones is willing to cough up and pay him, which I don't see happening. He's been known to be pretty cheap in that department. Let Rico Dowdle walk after a 1,000-yard season last year and look at what he's putting up, and we'll get to him in a second. But on top of that, I think it's really my disdain for the T. Higgins out there. I've never ever owned T. Higgins in Dynasty across over 20-plus leagues, and I think that should tell you a lot about where I value him. His best season he's ever had is wide receiver 17. Ever. And that was last year on a time that Joe Burrow was throwing the ball over 45 times a game and their defense was 32 ranked overall. That's the dream scenario. That's as good as it's going to get. Wide receiver 17. And I see him go in the 4th round of startups. I see him be moved for first-round picks all the time. I just am personally like, I got Tet in a lot of rookie drafts this year, and if I could get Tet or Ibuka with one of my first-round picks rather than getting to T. Higgins, who I think's upside at best is wide receiver 17, I'm more than happy to do this deal. So I think we're pretty fair on that one. I think if we move down here, we got another one coming up that's pretty interesting. Diving into a guy who had an absolutely insane blow-up week, probably his coming out party, Colston Loveland. All right? This is a 12-team Superflex PPR, start 11 with a tight end premium of 1.75. So a little extra boost there. Are you going Marv, Loveland, and a 27 first-round pick, or are you taking the current wide receiver 1 in Jackson, Smith, and Jigba?
And I say that this is like an actually solid deal for both ends. I'm not going to lie. Looking at this, especially with 1.75, wow, that's a steep tight end premium, but I love it. So this deal, in my opinion, it looks like someone that would be rebuilding or maybe just trying to break up one big asset in JSN to bring in more pieces. I really do love Colston Loveland. I mean, he was picked in the top 10 for a reason. And like you said, I think we finally saw the breakout game for him. It's also going to depend on this Cole Kmet injury. Regardless, I still think Cole Kmet is the offseason cap casualty or trade for the Bears, and that's why Loveland was brought in to begin with. Marv, on the other hand, is in such an interesting spot because I know how high he was drafted probably by this owner. It could be the 101, the 102, and he's just been a letdown. I mean, I don't think there's a soft way to say that. Between Kyler Murray, Brissett, and that whole scheme over there, it just doesn't favor a guy like Marv. That's not to say that he won't be good down the line. It's just rough right now. The 27 first is very enticing, though, especially if that's an early to mid pick, because that is a wide receiver loaded draft. As for JSN, I mean, we're seeing one of the best years he's had. We're seeing one of the best years that he might ever have. I think he's a fantastic player. And I think Sam Darnold has really brought out the best in him. Of course, moving Shane Waldron did help as well. But, I mean, I like it for both sides. If you're contending, go get JSN. If you have the ability to move JSN that would make your team better, I'd take the side with all the players and the picks, the Loveland first and Marv. But I think if you ask me right now, and we're all about winning, I'm going to take JSN.
Yep, I could see you there. I think I couldn't agree more that JSN is having the best season we'll probably ever see out of him. This is probably peak value on Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Unbelievable.
And I think that this is a totally fair package to sell him for. To be completely frank, I will take the Marv side, assuming that you knowing your league economy, assuming you can flip Marv. If you can get another first for Marv, or if you can go get a Garrett Wilson for Marv, someone I just prefer in the same range, maybe even a Ladd McConkey, maybe you got to add a third-round pick or something to sweeten the deal and get there. That's when I'm comfortable doing this deal. If you can't, I am not a Marv guy. I will die on that mountain. I understand, the circumstances haven't come out perfectly for him. I'm also not a Kyler believer. I think this Arizona team is going to go through a major rehaul in the next couple of years, and I don't really want to go along for that journey. So if you can move Marv, I will take this deal and move Marv for more and walk away happy. If you cannot, I'm going to stick with the JSN side. And I think that's as simple as you can make it over there. Well, Chef, we dived into a couple questions nice and quick here. We'll dive into another one in a second. Before we go too deep in, tell us a little bit about yourself, my man. How long you been playing Dynasty for? What got you into it? And then tell me what team you support, as if it's not already obvious enough on that beautiful hoodie of yours.
Oh, I love it. It's one of the coolest pieces of merchandise I own. It's got all the Super Bowls down the sleeve. It's got the throwback helmet. It's great. But we'll start with that. So I'm a diehard New York Giants fan. They're the frustration of my Sundays. That's the best way to put it. I have Sundays off. I spike the coffee and watch the Giants lose. That's my tradition. But we have hope. For the first time in a long time, I could go on and on about the Giants. But that is my favorite team, and they always will be. And I will go down with the ship every year.
Hell yeah.
As for Dynasty,
these Giants look good. These Giants look good right now.
Yeah, I've been telling everyone, it's like, we look competitive, and that's something that we don't usually do. We usually just lose games, and that's it. We lose by 30, 40, 20. We're scoring 9 points. We're scoring 7. Maybe we get a 13 if we're lucky. Watching the Giants score 24 and lose it's hopeful, as strange as that sounds. That's just how low the bar has gotten. Well, so I guess that's the best way to put it.
Let me dive into that topic right away, because I wanna pick your brain here for my own benefit and the benefit of our viewers. Got some exciting pieces on that Giants team. Jackson Dart obviously being one of them, Cam Scadaboo being one of them, Malik Neighbors being one of them, Wan'Dale Robinson being very fantasy relevant this season. On top of, if you play in a tight end premium league, Theo Johnson has had his weeks here and there as well. So, starting with Jackson Dart, we're about mid-season. I'm about to redo my quarterback rankings on the Discord. So if you guys aren't already in there, make sure you hop on in and check them out, coming out this week. But where are we viewing Jackson Dart in Dynasty? Like, what would I have to offer you to pull him from your grasps here? Like, let me just play a little would you rather game with you. And we'll test your threshold here, okay? Let's say I come to you and I'm offering you Marvin Harrison straight up for Jackson Dart. Are you doing it, or are you keeping Dart in a super flex format?
In a super flex, I'm probably keeping Dart. I mean, the biggest thing I'm going to preach on this is rushing upside is everything.
Yep. Well, see, there we go. I mean, Dart at this point now, we're already gauging is probably a 3rd or 4th round startup pick in next offseason if you're taking him over Marv. And I don't disagree with you. I'm taking him over Marv. How about another guy that we're about to talk about, Bucky Irving? I give you Bucky Irving, or are you taking Jackson Dart in a super flex format?
Man, I love Bucky Irving. He's such a fun player. I took him in the redraft leagues. I've been trying to trade for him in Dynasty formats ever since he came along, but those owners are stubborn because they're passionate about the man. But in his super flex style league, I'm still going to lean the quarterback. Quarterback's where you get all your points each and every week. And I think not only, I mean, this is not to knock Bucky at all. I mean, he's a solid RB2 type player, but as you can tell, when the injuries roll, man, I don't know if it's Tampa not handling it well or Bucky not telling the truth to how long he's going to be out. It seems like he's coming back, but I'm still taking Dart, especially in Superflex.
All right, last one here, and then we'll talk about Cam Scattaboo. But let's say I tug on your heartstrings with last season's sweetheart, Bo Nix. Are you taking Bo Nix or are you taking Jackson Dart in a Superflex format right now?
That's a fun one. I mean, the Broncos are great. I mean, I don't think there's a short way to say that. Their defense is unbelievable. Their run game is flowing. Bo Nix is really coming out there and winning games, and he showed some upside too in the run game.
Absolutely.
So I think for safer sake, I wouldn't mind taking Bo Nix in this deal. I love Dart, and Dart's got all the potential, but I think Bo Nix is the safer option because of the team that's around him right now. That's not to say Dart couldn't pass him in the future, but if you're asking me right now, I think I'd take Bo Nix. They're not bad options. I like them both.
No, I'm with you. I'm going to have them pretty neck and neck, to be completely frank with you, in my rankings here. Yeah. I would not see a world where, you're getting a few years younger with Jackson Dart, potentially more rushing upside. Like this could flip-flop in a year's time, but I see where you're at, and I'm with you. Sure. I'm going to favor Bo Nix in the immediate. All right, next guy, Cam Scattaboo. I love him. He's probably the most fun player to watch in the entire National Football League. We wish him a speedy recovery. Devastating to see that happen right at the start of his rookie season here. But what are you paying for Cam Scattaboo in Dynasty right now? Are you viewing him as a long-term running back 1 option? And just for your gauge, he was running back 8 overall when he got hurt. I just made a trade the other day, and I'm going to pick your brain on it right away here. The night he got hurt, I went out, I said, this is my chance to buy him. I don't think anyone was going to sell him to me until he got hurt. I sent Xavier Worthy in a 3rd-round pick for Cam Scattaboo and said, I'll wait it out till next year. I felt like that was a fair offer. I still feel good about it, but I think I came out on the winning side. Where do you land on that one? And are you that much of a believer in Cam Scattaboo to pay a premium young wide receiving asset like that?
Man, you said that's a fair deal. I was going to tell you that's a steal.
Really?
I mean, we saw what Scattaboo is going to be. He's the focal point of what the Giants want their identity to be in the run game. Tracy and Singletary just are not between the tackle guys, and we've seen that as the Giants couldn't run it all last week. And San Francisco is not good on defensively because everyone's hurt. Scattaboo did everything. He was playing almost 80% of the offensive snaps, rushing, receiving. He was the hype guy. He was the heartbeat. He was everything that the Giants needed in a real, I don't know what to call it, like a team changer. I guess you can put it that way.
Yeah.
And he established his superstardom real quick. As you said, he was RB8. The guy was unbelievable. I think there were 2 games where he eclipsed almost 30 touches. So I love that deal for you. I think we've seen Xavier Worthy's peak, which was the end of last season, where they had no receivers. They were using him in all sorts of packages and everything like that. Now that everyone's rolling back into being healthy and Rashee Rice is back from suspension, that ball just gets spread out too much. I think a lot of teams are also really ready for Xavier Worthy to go over the top. They have all that tape now, so he's just not that high upside guy anymore. I think Xavier Worthy is a low-end Jamison Williams type player right now in terms of fantasy value.
That's a hard knock on him. That's a hard knock on him right there.
It's a brutal knock, but I mean, he's going to get you a 4 or he's going to get you a 20. And with how the offense is playing right now, he's more consistently averaging 6 and 8, maybe a 10 if he gets 5 catches. But man, he's not the guy that he was at the end of last season. So I love that deal for you. I value Scattaboo pretty high. Of course, it's a homer type thing, but I think as a general fantasy player, if you are to go and buy someone like Scattaboo, I would happily try and send a little bit more now and wait out the year for him to come back. I think this is the lowest you could see his value for a while. And
all right, well, let me get you with another would you rather then here, just to go rapid fire with you here. Let's say I'm offering you Kyron Williams or Cam Scattaboo straight up. Who you taking?
That's a tough one because I as someone who owns both players in the same dynasty league, Watching Blake Corum take Kyron's carries more
Yep.
and more every game drives me nuts. So I would probably go Scadaboo.
Okay. All right. I love it. How about James Cook? Just signed the extension. He looks fantastic. Are you taking Scadaboo over Cook?
See, that's one where I would probably lean opposite of Scadaboo. James Cook has become an absolute workhorse in that Bills offense, and they're not shy to run the ball. It's only when the Bills start losing is when they stop running the ball. James Cook doesn't really get involved in the receiving game too much like he did in college. He'll have a few catches, but they resort to Ty Johnson or just like Josh Allen running up the middle at the end of the day. But man, with how explosive that Bills offense, James Cook has like super high touchdown upside, and that's something you should value more than anything in Dynasty.
Talk about
Fantasy
touchdown
football in
upside. Last one for you. It's Cam Scadaboo or Josh Jacobs? Dynasty. What are you doing?
That's one where I feel like they're almost the same player on different teams and in different age gaps. They offer the same thing, where they're the little bit of everything, the bowling ball style guy on a team that doesn't have the most consistent offense. I mean, we've seen weeks where the Packers score 40. We've seen weeks where the Packers score 13. It's ugly. And with Jacobs getting a little bit older, I think I'd lean Scadaboo.
Yep. I shockingly enough, I am there with you. I love Josh Jacobs, and I think he's a really hard runner, but I think I'm going to favor the Scadaboo side from a dynasty standpoint. All right, hopping into these next couple of trades, let's rip them off. We've got 12 teams, Superflex, PPR, start 11. We're back to Marvin Harrison Jr., but now we're talking about Rico Dowdle, who's exploding all over the scene. Are you taking Marv and Dowdle, or are you taking Bucky and a third-round pick?
I'm taking Bucky in the third, and I'm not looking back. I'll say that confidently.
I'm with you here.
We just went over how we both feel about Marv, but Dowdle is one of those guys where this could be a one-year rental situation. Dowdle's looked good. It is 1 year with Dallas, and it's kind of like the season with Carolina right now. But at the end of the day, Carolina has shown us that they're going to be a two-back system, whether it's Chuba and Dowdle next year, or maybe Dowdle's just gone completely. I think Dowdle is good for this season, but anything past that, I'm not sure dynasty-wise. So if you can sell him for high upside like this, I'd do it in a heartbeat.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think Dowdle's a great throw-in piece right now. He's a perfect rental till the end of the year. Now, if you need cheap running back production on a contender, I'm fine maybe sending a late second for Rico Dowdle just to guarantee me the W. But at the same time, I view Dowdle as a journeyman 1 year guy. He's not on an extension. They've already paid Chuba, regardless of whether or not they're going to stick with him long term. I don't know if I see them re-signing 28-year-old Rico Dowdle to some big deal. Probably either another rental or a void year type structure anyway. So I think this is a great way to tear up and get Bucky. Let's talk about this next one because it is two guys that are firing on all cylinders. Unfortunately, we got another injury here, but Sam Darnold takes down Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders in primetime last night, looking fantastic while doing so. He's flying up my quarterback rankings. On the other side, a tight end that has cemented himself as a top 5 guy this season in Tucker Kraft. Unfortunately, deals with that injury, but the buy window on Tucker Kraft has probably just opened for some people out there now that he's injured. So in a 12-team Superflex PPR, we're starting 10. It's a tight end premium 1.75. Are you taking Sam Darnold or are you taking Tucker Kraft here?
This is one of those where, tough, just like I said with Jaden Daniels, we hate to see Tucker Kraft go down. We know how much of a gem he was in these drafts, or maybe some people got him off the waiver. Some people drafted him last year and saw him start the breakout. But what we saw Tucker Kraft do for the first 9 weeks was insane for tight end production. He had 2 30-point weeks. Yeah. That's like Travis Kelce-esque good. Man, it's such a shame that he got hurt in the fashion that he did. What a bummer. So, I mean, if you look at it from this aspect, I think you take Sam Darnold. As hard as it is to give Tucker Kraft up with how good he's been, I think Sam Darnold is really good on the buy-in for someone who's going to miss the whole season. And tight ends are like a buck a bunch, I guess is how you can put it. You can find a tight end off the waivers. You can find a tight end on someone's bench. There's always going to be a tight end that comes in the draft. It's weird. I know everyone loves the top-tier tight ends because they're good, But at the same time, what can win you games is good quarterback play. And Sam Darnold has been unbelievable in Seattle. I don't think there's a soft way to put that. He's been ridiculously good.
No, you don't have to tell me twice.
I don't mind
I'm loving this season watching Sam Darnold play at a discount rate on one of the cheapest contracts in the league.
Mm-hmm.
He's being paid as the 20th highest paid quarterback in the league this year. Yet he's giving you top 10 fantasy production, top 5 real life production. I love what I'm seeing out of Darnold. And to be completely frank with you, I do think that quarterbacks are starting to be undervalued in Dynasty right now. I don't know if you're seeing the same sort of trend. So I'm going to chime in and say, I probably, knowing how my leagues trade with the undervalued quarterbacks, I would be taking Tucker Kraft here just because I think it's possible to go out and buy a Michael Penix, a Trevor Lawrence, even a Jared Goff at times for a pretty cheap rate. That's the only reason why I'm taking the Kraft side. I think on paper, Sam Darnold should be worth a lot more. And I think I'll be interested to see this offseason how the market correction goes for quarterbacks. I do imagine that some people are going to start waking up to the fact that, hey, I can't survive on playing C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young every week. I do got to pay up to get some of these top guys. And I think we might have a little bit of an offseason renaissance, but we'll talk more about that as we go on, because I want to dive right in here and talk about another guy who's been playing pretty well the last few weeks and is starting to get more involvement in this Patriots offense. We got a more shallow format here. It's a 12-team Superflex PPR, only start 9, so nice and simple here. Are you taking Stephon Diggs or are you taking a mid-26 second?
Stephon Diggs is already on the plane. I don't think that's a question. I'd take the 26 mid-second, absolutely, any day of the week. And that's not to knock Stephon Diggs. He's a great player. We've seen what he can be, but he's never going to be that Minnesota form of himself, that Buffalo Bills form of himself. What he is in New England is the vet receiver who's going to make a play here and a play there. He's 31 years old. In terms of dynasty value, I think a mid-second for a guy like that, is absolutely worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I am a big Diggs guy. I got no issue going and buying Diggs in as many leagues as you can if you are a contending roster, just because he is wide receiver 25 coming into this week. He catches another touchdown. He's probably going to be up to about wide receiver 21 or so by the time the week's over here and we get our updated season-long rankings. So I think for a budget buy, he's a great buy. Like, if you can send a Demario Douglas plus a third, I'm fine doing that on a contending team. It's like you're talking about here when we get into the range of mid-second round picks. You were getting scat in the mid-second round this year. You're getting guys like Trey Harris and Jaden Higgins, who I still think have a ton of upside in this league moving forward. I think just projecting off of where we were this year, I'd prefer to have the flexibility and the liquidity of a second going into next season. But as we dive into this next one, we've got a guy who put up one of the highest scoring weeks I've ever seen in fantasy this week, depending on how big your tight end premium is. And I play in a lot of tight end premium leagues. Brock Bowers, he's back. He's off the injury. Are you taking, in a tight end premium league, 1.75, start 11, Brock Bowers or Malik Neighbors? And this is a brutal one because I know you're a Giants fan, so get on in there and tell me what you're doing here.
Yeah. This is one of those where I know I just talked about Tucker Kraft and the tight ends being a dime a dozen, but in a 1.75 tight end premium, what we just watched Brock Bowers do was probably almost a 50-point performance.
I had him go off for 56 points in one of my leagues. 56.
Yeah. I think that this Vegas offense just showed how they're going to run the rest of the year. Brock is the safety valve. Brock is the wide receiver 1. They gave him a jet sweep. Like, I haven't seen him do that since he was at UGA. And I just think when you can get a super high-end tight end player that scores like a high-end wide receiver, especially with like added points, I love Malik Neighbors. But I think you take Brock because he's that much of a game changer when he plays.
Yep. Yeah, I got to
nagging the injury, but I think you got to go with it.
Yeah, I got to agree with you here. I'll be boring and hop on the train. I think having the positional difference maker is massive. And although I love Malik Neighbors and think that there's a very realistic possibility that during his time in the league here, we see him end up being Dynasty wide receiver 1 overall in the next 4 to 5 years. I don't think that's a crazy statement. However, that all being considered, I do think that the replaceability that you could get at the wide receiver position comparatively is just so much higher. Like it's things you're seeing this season, like Jalen Waddle, who's giving you, a random top 12 performance. Chris Olave, who is sitting in the top 10 performers going into this week. It's rare that you are going to find a guy that could ever repeat what Brock Bowers doing. However, I have seen receivers that you just don't even expect coming out of the woodwork and giving you Malik Neighbors style production. So I think that is going to be the only reasoning I'm leaning that direction. Let's go ahead and hop into the next one, because these are two guys that I find to be extremely interesting topics in the Dynasty market right now. We're talking about a start 9 format, but you watched Kyle Monangai get his breakout opportunity this weekend against the Chicago Bears. And then you've watched Quentin Johnston have a coming back to life party this year where everyone had given up on him. And through the first 6 weeks of football, he was one of the top receivers out there. So are you taking Kyle Monangai or are you taking Quentin Johnston?
This is a fun one. Kyle Monangai just ran for 176 yards on 22 carries. To be fair, it is Cincinnati, and we know how bad they are. But that is still an impressive performance for a 7th-round rookie. Yeah, unbelievable. Quentin Johnston as well. It took him 3 years to get going, but man, is he going. Aside from the 0 on Thursday night, the guy's getting touchdowns. It doesn't have to be pretty. He's getting it done. If I'm looking at this in my inbox, though, I think I would take QJ. Purely because I like his role more, and I feel like, I don't want to say he's more consistent, but he's a starting piece on his respective team. Monangai is kind of like a rotational backup to DeAndre Swift. To be fair, I don't think DeAndre Swift has much more time, but I think the way the Ben Johnson offense runs and is going to run is with 2 running backs. This could be a team that takes Jeremiah Love. This could be a team that takes Katron Allen. This could be a team that takes Nick Singleton. I don't think Monangai will completely go away, but I don't think he's ever going to be a full 20 carries and 5-catch guy unless injury happens. So I'd probably take QJ.
Yeah, I could totally see your side here. I am going to actually take the Monangai side, give the folks maybe something else to think about here. I mean, I think this comes way more for my general just disdain towards QJ than it does my true belief in Monangai here. I just think that Quentin Johnston is going to be boom bust his entire career if defenses are going to play 2 deep safety and, read the Chargers downfield opportunities. You're going to get nothing out of him. If defenses, get schemed out for a second, you'll watch him, go for 2 touchdowns and 70 yards and put up a 22-point week. But like you were saying earlier with Xavier Worthy, I view Quentin Johnston in a pretty similar realm of being very boom bust. It's not a ride I want to go along for. I am curious to see how the rest of the season plays out for Monangai here, to see if the Bears might actually give him a true chance. Because as CJ so educationally stated here, not only do we have a draft class ahead of us with plenty of prospects, but you've got a big rookie free agent, a running back free agent class coming up here with guys like Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker and Tyler Algier and players that are not nobodies in this league that have shown they can do it, they can get it done. Do the Bears roll with their rookie and keep it coming, or do they take a swing on somebody else in free agency? Hard to say. But maybe I'm being reactionary. I would take the Monangai side and hope I get lucky. But I don't think it's a bad offer either way. I think there's dynasty value on both sides. All right, we're going to hop into the next one. We got another start 9. I got your guy, Jackson Dart, right here. Are you taking J.K. Dobbins, Jalen Waddle in a 4th, or are you rolling with Jackson Dart here?
This is another one where I got the 2 gentlemen in the 4th-round pick on the plane already. I'm taking Jackson Dart.
I'm brought
in on a 1-year deal.
I'm with you here. I think this is a no-brainer. I think if you can sell package like this for Jackson Dart right now before he gets priced up, this is your chance.
Mhm.
Question just to make it interesting.
Just
What would you have to add to the other side to get there? Like if we swap that fourth out for a first, would you consider it or that's not enough?
I definitely think it's more considerable, but I don't view Dobbins that highly either. I don't think Dobbins is going to be in Denver after this season. They brought him in on a 1 year, and that's how they're going to roll. I think Denver is always going to be a two-back system. I think they're going to draft somebody. That's just what Sean Payton does. Dobbins is going to go elsewhere. His landing spot could be very iffy. Maybe he gets the spot in Chicago and it's a home run like that. Or maybe he ends up as RB2 in Green Bay or Carolina. Waddle is one of those where he is so situational. He can boom with Tua, he can bust with Tua. But if Waddle gets traded, I think his value is higher. But if I look at this right now, I don't think a first would do it. I think I'd still take Dart.
Interesting. I think I'm with you for the most part. If it's a late first, you wouldn't get me. If it's a early to mid first, I might take the swing. But I do think getting Dart
See that.
is pretty great right about now. All right, let's hop into the next one. We got a 12-team Superflex PPR start 11. You've got Amon-Ra St. Brown moving for 2 firsts and 2 seconds, and we'll just throw an extra third in there for the hell of it. Are you taking the haul for Amon-Ra, or are you saying, nah, let me just keep my guy. I'll ride it out?
This is a fun one. And I say that because Amon Ra is such a talented player. I think you and I probably both have him marked in our top 5 Dynasty wide receivers. I'd be shocked if you didn't. Maybe I could see him at 6 if there really is someone who else is up here. But he's been an unbelievable player. But I will say, I think his value last year compared to this year was much higher. This is a beautiful package, though. We had a guy in our Dynasty League that was trying to shop Amon Ra just to kind of field offers to see what he would get. And this is one of the packages that pretty much came in to him. So I think if you're a contending team or like middle of the pack team, maybe you got some injuries that were dealt, I think I'd still roll with Amon Ra. It's hard to find a wide receiver with his kind of volume. You can find good receivers out there. I guarantee it. But I still value like the super high end player, the guy that you know is going to go out there and get a ton of targets each game and has really high touchdown upside and really high scoring offense. Those picks are very enticing, especially if they're early. If this is a spot where you're rebuilding, I don't have a problem taking the picks. Very easily would take the picks if you're a squad that's towards the bottom with Amon Ra as your shiny jewel. Very easily would take the 2 first, the 2 seconds, and the thirds, and I don't think I'd think twice about it. So I think this one's situational. I like it for both sides.
Yeah, I'm with you here. I'll agree on the situational side of it. To be completely frank, I think, like you said, Amon-Ra is in my top 5. I think people get so bored with consistency. He's finished wide receiver 3 2 years in a row. He's on pace to do it again. I think even more so than the Chases and the Jeffersons of the world, this is consistency incarnate for me. And personally, I could see from a rebuilding side taking this package. I don't even think it's enough for me. Even on a rebuilding team, I think I'd still need more. And I know that sounds greedy, and maybe it's the best offer you're going to get, and obviously that's a different story. But, yeah, I think I'd still need more for Amon-Ra. But I got him really high up, and I could understand that if this is, projected early picks and you're getting the 103 in back-to-back years, that would make me feel a lot better. It'd make me feel a lot better, but
yeah.
I think like you said, it's pretty fair on both sides. This one I found pretty interesting because it was actually a trade that got proposed to me on my Discord earlier today. They said, look, this guy's probably going to have the 203. He's offering me Zach Charbonnet to get his pick back. Are you taking Zach Charbonnet and hoping that he signs somewhere else next year and Sharp takes over the backfield in Seattle? Or are you saying, I'll trust my drafting prospects here and I'll go take a younger guy?
The 203 is such an underrated pick, is how I would say it. It's one of those where you always have someone you feel like should go in the back end of the first round. They will slide to that first part of the second round. So I value those 201s to 206s pretty highly. Zach Charbonnet hasn't really shown me much besides he can get a goal line touchdown. That Seattle run game, as we talked about earlier, is just atrocious. The line doesn't hold up well. The schemes aren't good. And even if Charbonnet does get the RB1 role, What's to say they don't play Damian Martinez more? What's to say they don't play Kenny McIntosh more? What's to say they don't go draft Katron Allen?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I'd probably keep the 2-3. I don't think Charbonnet has done enough. It really gives me the hope of, if he goes somewhere else or Ken Walker goes somewhere else, he's the guy, like I would with Breece Hall, for example. So I think I'm keeping the 2-3.
Yeah, I'm with you here. I think it's interesting how fine the line is here. Like at the 2-3, I'm holding the pick. You send me to the 2-5 and the 2-6, and I think I'll actually take the coin flip and pray that Charbonnet is the starter.
Yeah.
Just because he was a former second-round pick. I think he's got a lot of upside. You've already watched his red zone potential. You know, they love to use him near the goal line as the power back in Seattle. So he's already got the touchdown upside there. I think it's a really fine line. You know, like you said, if it's an early second here, like the 3, probably holding the pick, you push it maybe even 2 picks back, and I think I'm smashing the Sharps. So that's how fine of a line it can be in Dynasty fantasy football, right? All right, we've got another one coming up here. This is quite an interesting one for my New York Giants specialist here. You've got 2 guys that are performing really well this year, Michael Pittman especially, but this is a start 11, tight end premium, 1.75, a 12 team like always. You've got Devonta Smith, Michael Pittman, and a 26 first, projected late. I can actually say that because this is a real trade that happened in our league just a couple days ago. 4, Malik Neighbors, and a 3rd. Obviously, we had a contender versus a rebuilder here, but where do you land on this trade? Because I could see it being very interesting from both sides.
Yeah, no, like you said, it's contender versus rebuilder. It's what do you want to do here? My personal preference, and without the homers, I'm taking Malik Neighbors. But I feel like this is a good package of what you realistically could sell him for. I still think you can get a touch more, but with the way Pittman has been revived with Daniel Jones, it's been unbelievable. He's finally like going back to be a strong wide receiver 2, and on some ends, a high-end wide receiver 1. The 26 first, despite it being late, getting the first is still really nice. Devontae Smith, for me personally, is a little too inconsistent for my liking. I don't think he's ever going to be better than like a really booming flex play on most weeks, maybe wide receiver 2. He just doesn't strike me because of how run-heavy that Philadelphia offense really is. But for a team that is rebuilding, I don't mind the package, but I'd prefer the Neighbors in the 3rd side.
Yeah, I think this is one of those interesting ones, right? Because I could see taking Malik Neighbors here, and I got no qualms with that, really. I actually am going to take the package side, and I think the reasoning on that one really is again, this will age very differently depending on how things go in the NFL. But I could see a real world where Daniel Jones gets extended here, Michael Pittman's on contract, he just turned 28. You get 3 really good top 20 years out of Michael Pittman. Because I think what a lot of people forget is that before last season, when he had a broken back and Anthony Richardson over there that couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, he was 3 consecutive seasons as a top 20 wide receiver. He was 13, 17, and 20. And that's hard to do, right? Now you got him coming out here, basically cementing himself as a top 20 guy no matter what so far this season. He's currently wide receiver 6, so very potentially a top 10 finish in the cards for him this year if he stays healthy. But you sign Daniel Jones, you've got the one for at least 2 to 3 years. He's not that old, 28. You know, he's going to perform well until 30, 31. He's not a speed burner anyway, so I don't see his production falling off right out of the gate here. He'll still high point some good contested catches for you. On top of that, with the A.J. Brown drama going on in Philadelphia, there's a very real world where I see Devonta Smith being wide receiver 1 overall in Philly next year. And if that's the case, at age 27, 28, you've got 2 wide receiver 1s and a first-round pick for Malik Neighbors. That seems like enough for me. Now, again, everything goes the opposite direction. They give AR another chance, and A.J. Brown reconciles with Jalen Hurts, and Devonta Smith's the perpetual wide receiver 2. Now, this trade clearly swings back to the Malik Neighbors side, but I think I'm willing to risk enough on the narrative here to take my 2 contending pieces and ride them out. But again, if you're a rebuilder, I don't have too much of an issue with this trade, just to play devil's advocate here. All right, I got a 12 team.
I think it's solid.
Yeah, Yeah, I got a 12-team Superflex PPR. We're starting 10. We got another tight end premium here. You've got Bucky, Ladd, Tedero McMillan, and a 26 first. A hell of a package over there. Moving for Worthy, Genty, Ricky Pearsall, and 2 first-round picks, a 26 and 27. And you know what? Since we've got a 26 pick in both of them, let's just cancel them out. You've got those 2 getting canceled out here.
Swap.
Yeah, might as well be a swap. Where are you landing on this one? There's a lot of big names on this trade.
Yeah, this is a fun one. There is a lot of big, young, and good pieces in this one, man. I think I'm gonna go the Bucky Ladd Tet side, especially since you're keeping a first. I know you give up a 27 first, but you don't give up 2 first. It might just be like a slide to the back end of the first, would be my guess, with kind of how these trades stack out. But I like Bucky, Ladd, and Tet for the future more. They're all very good, solid pieces on their team. I already spoke my piece with Xavier Worthy earlier. I don't think he's going to be anything more than like a true flex piece from here on out unless guys get injured. Maybe a wide receiver too if they switch some things up, but I think it's Rashee Rice, everyone else in that Kansas City offense. He's a great player. I know a lot of people drafted Genty really, really, really high with a lot of expectations, but that Raiders offense has been terrible. I think better days are to come for sure. So he's definitely a good get back to kind of tag on with Ricky Pearsall and Worthy. Ricky, I can't even speak on. The guy barely plays. He's a good young name. So I think if you could sell Ricky Pearsall for any sort of high-end value like this, I think you do. I would take the Bucky Ladd Tet side.
Yep. Honestly, I couldn't agree with you more here. Hate to be boring, but it's the reality of the situation. I want nothing to do with Ricky Pearsall in Dynasty. He's been on my sell list since the minute he entered the league. You got Xavier Worthy, who's only got a certain amount of upside, like we talked about. And quite frankly, like I'm such a big Tedero McMillan guy. I'm not exactly sure where you land on him, and maybe that's a quick question for you. Where do you view Tet in Dynasty? But I'm as high on Tet as I think anybody could be. So 1, give me a little Tet heat check, and then 2, I got a quick would you rather on Tet. I'm curious your opinions here.
No, this is fun because I love Tet McMillan. I lived in Charlotte for 9 years, so I got very familiar with all the Panthers hype and how they prospect and view players. It's been a while since I've seen a lot of these fans get really excited about a wide receiver. It's been such a long time since they've had one. Like DJ Moore and Devin Funchess were like the last 2 big wide receiver pieces that
Devin Funchess is a deep cut.
Young,
that's a deep cut. The streets will never forget the Funchess run. Okay, sorry, continue.
Oh my god. No. But I think Tet helped Bright become a better NFL player. And I think together both of them are making the Carolina Panthers a better team. Sure, they're always going to be run first over there in Carolina, but knowing that Tet is going to always be a true wide receiver 1 on that team in that offense that is only going to get better, I think he's a great asset in Dynasty. I'd say wide receiver wise, top 20 for sure. I think he's this could be the floor we see of Tet this year. I think it's just going to go up and up and up. I don't know if he'll ever be in the upper echelon of like the top 5 guys. I could see him squeaking into top 10, at the very least top 12 within the next 2 years.
Yep. No, I'm glad we're in agreement here. I've been super high on Tet, and I remain that way. Here's an interesting one for you, because we watched him just explode onto the scene at the start of the season. Tet or Ibuka? Who are you taking higher in your Dynasty rankings?
That's a fun one, but that's such a tough one. I think, me personally, I'm going Ibuka. Purely because he's the wide receiver 1 in Tampa, whether people like it or not. Godwin is never going to be the same. We might have just seen the end of Mike Evans. I think Mike is come back next year and try to be good, but he's not the player we once saw. We saw what the Baker-Ibuka wide receiver 1 connection was through those first 6 games, and it was ridiculous. That's not the knock Tet at all, though. I think they both have really high dynasty upside, but I like more of what I've seen from Ibuka Baker Tampa connection. I've seen the Bryce Young Carolina Panther offense connection.
Totally.
Be a hot take, but I like it.
No, I don't think it is. In fact, I think most people would lean your side and say Ibuka. I think I'm in the minority here, preferring Tet. But what I will say is, and maybe if it's close enough for you, you would do this deal. A deal I've been telling folks that I love if you can make it in Dynasty. And believe it or not, I watched it happen in one of my leagues. So I just stole this from somebody else. But I watched Ibuka in a second go for Tet in a first because the guy was so high on Ibuka. If you can take a pick swap tier up here and still retain a top young wide receiving asset like that, that's where I'm going the Tet side. Are you comfortable doing that deal?
Take it, yeah. Tet, easy.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I would take that 9 times out of 10.
Yeah. I think those are the type of savvy Dynasty moves that really, like set people apart. I guess, sorry to wrap back around to a question I, meant to ask you earlier, but, we went off on a nice little tangent. How do you view yourself as a Dynasty player? Is there anything you do differently than other people? Or are you I value young players a lot. I value the vets. I don't care about my picks. I hyper value picks. Where do you land on the spectrum as far as yourself as a Dynasty player? And is there any strategies that you employ that you think are different than some of your league mates?
I think the best way to talk about myself as a Dynasty player, I'm not a pick guy. And when I first started playing Dynasty, I was like, all right, give me the pick. I want to draft. I want to take these guys and, do all this. And that's how I'm going to build my team from the ground up. I then came soon realizing 3 of the Dynasty where I don't hit on my picks because I take guys like Trey Lance and Sky Moore that I'm going to just trade these picks for players. So I don't have to do the work. I'm going to just go buy the established guys. And yeah, I'll pay a pretty price for it too. I don't mind going into rookie drafts with 0 picks. Yeah. But 9 times out of 10, if I'm buying someone younger with rookie picks, there's a chance I'm selling a vet, like a Saquon Barkley or an Alvin Kamara. Man, I even sold James Cook for a pretty package. I'm not one to turn down a deal. I'm always willing to negotiate. But 9 times out of 10, I'm the guy who's going to use my first and my seconds to go buy the proven player instead of rolling the dice with something that could or couldn't be. That's definitely one of my things. I think I talked earlier about how I see 3rd-round picks as valuable, expendable pieces because they're kind of like that flashy middle ground of, oh, it's not 4th, it's not a 5th. As valuable or 1 or 2, but it's good enough to turn an eye and be like, okay, a 3rd's not bad attached with this player and moving up for something more valuable. So that's how I play. I'm very aggressive. I like to trade a lot, and I just like to buy talent. I'm like Sean McVay, I guess is the best way you can put it.
Hey, I love that. I love the sound of it. Sounds like we got to get in the league together. I like the hyperactive trading. We got to make something happen this offseason, and spin up something together. That'd be fun.
I think that'd be great if we got DPC, anyone who's been on the show, which is a 12-man Dynasty League. I feel like that'd be the coolest thing to cover.
Hey, I love the ideas. I love the ideas. Mark it here, chat. All right, we're gonna dive into one of our quick segments for the listeners that are playing redraft out here. This one is called, as you can see here, Rapid Fire Redraft. It's a simple yes/no side picking game. I've got on one side London Walker, for on the other side Dowdle or Pittman. What are you going in redraft?
I'm going to take the Dowdle Pittman side. London has been fantastic as of late, but is he going to score 3 touchdowns every week? No. And Ken Walker struggles behind the Seattle backfield. Not interested. Give me the guy who is now the RB1 in Carolina and possibly a top 15 wide receiver in Michael Pittman.
I agree with this. I think this is one of these interesting trades where this will go through in 99% of leagues because of name value alone and not because people are paying attention to their production. So I like that one a lot. Good Trojan horse trade, as I say. How about Diggs or Addison? Where are you landing on this one?
This is one where Addison showed us real promise, but that was with Carson Wentz. Now that McCarthy's come back, he is a Jefferson, Hockenson, Aaron Jones check down guy. So I'm going Stephon Diggs. I mean, he's top 25 wide receiver right now. Like I said, not the biggest fan of him, but in regional purposes, he's going to be efficient and give you like a high flex upside piece versus Addison, who is don't call Addison boom or bust. Very talented player, but I like Diggs' consistency more.
Yep, I'm with you here. We're both taking Diggs. You guys are getting buy-in today. How about Charbonnet or Monungai? Which one are you going rest of the season here?
Taking Monungai. They have a very similar role, but what we just saw Monungai do, he's not going to disappear into the night anymore. And who knows? Swift could be out next week, so you might get another high-end start from Monungai. I'm very happily taking that side of the deal.
I agree. I think they're both premium handcuffs, especially if Swift misses extreme time and Ken Walker deals with an injury like he has in the past. Could both be league winners for you down the line here, but I'm going to prefer Monungai in the immediate. How about this one? This one is not the receivers. It is the running backs. We got Javonte Williams or Kyron Williams, both giving you top 15 production this season, but where do you land here?
I am going to take Javonte Williams. And that's just because that Dallas offense, well, I'm not sure what they're up to right now, but that Dallas offense has shown that they are going to run the ball. They are going to run the ball, run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. The Rams run the ball a lot too, but they're more of a passing team as Matthew Stafford has another 4+ touchdown week. And Kyron, like I said, is slowly getting his workload chipped off by Blake Corum. It's frustrating. Kyron is so talented. And Sean McVay just does not care about your fantasy football team. So give me Javonte Williams.
Couldn't agree more. I'm all in on the Javonte train here. I think it's been too much fun to watch. All right, we got two more quick ones for you. We're going Chase Brown or Michael Pittman. Which one are you taking there?
Michael Pittman, and I'm not looking back. I mean, I know Chase Brown has done better as of late with Flacco in the lineup, but Pittman's been a high-end wide receiver too on a weekly basis.
I'm with you there too. Last one, J.K. Dobbins or Jaylen Warren?
This is a fun one, but I think right now we're seeing the backfield shift. Where in the beginning for Pittsburgh, it was Jaylen Warren, Kenneth Gainwell, Caleb Johnson. Everyone was getting the rotations. And in Denver, it was just J.K. Dobbins. Now we're seeing a lot of R.J. Hardy as of late, and he's getting a lot of that receiving work. Jaylen Warren, despite Pittsburgh only having 40 yards rushing, got both the touchdowns. And both these teams are really good, both the offenses I like a lot. But I think I'm taking Jaylen Warren. He's got good PPR upside, too.
I'm with you here. I think Jaylen Warren is one of the most slept-on backs in redraft right now. He's getting receiving usage. He gets the touchdown looks like you mentioned. At any given week, he could pop off, have a huge receiving touchdown. You know, you watched him in that Seattle game week 2, catch a 60-plus yard pass. Like, I love the upside out of Jaylen Warren here. All right, we're going to dive back into our last few Dynasty trades here. There's 2 to go. But before I get you off here, CJ, you know me, it's my show. I want to talk movies. I love the movies. Give me a little bit of insight here. I prepped CJ beforehand with this question just like I do all my guests. If I dropped you on a deserted island, said you got 4 movies to watch for the rest of your life, doesn't have to be the best movies you've ever seen, just the ones that make you happy or you hold close to your heart. Tell me what 4 you're bringing along.
This was tough when you sent me this question because I was thinking about it. Like, I love some movies, specifically comedy movies. I'm cheesy. I like to laugh. You know, horror is not my genre. Thrillers would be okay. But if this was a situation where I was just 4 movies the rest of my life, I would need to laugh at something. So of course. I'm a big Adam Sandler guy. So Big Daddy was very easily the first movie that came out of my mouth. It's got to be Big Daddy. We love Scuba Steve. So I'm going to pick another Adam Sandler movie. I'm going to go Grown Ups. We love Kevin James. I saw him live, and he was hilarious.
Nice.
And that movie's just so well done. Both of them are fantastic. I happily watch both of those. Then we're going to flip over and do Ted. I mean, that's a good, nice adult-rated one. All the jokes, everything. Who doesn't love Mark Wahlberg? And sticking with Wahlberg, I'm going to pull in some Will Ferrell, and we're going to go with the other guys. A little bit of action, but still the same amount of laughs.
Hey, if it's any consolation, The Other Guys is my favorite comedy of all time. I'm right there with you. I watched it way too many times in high school with my best bud Jesse out here, and I think I could still quote the majority of that movie to you right now. So I think there's some great choices. I got to give you props on the Adam Sandler ones too. I love Adam Sandler, but Grown Ups, you know, wouldn't have been on my radar. You know, I would have thought you'd be going with the Happy Gilmore, the Billy Madison, you know, something a little more mainstream. He's pulling the deep cuts.
I did almost go with Billy Madison. I was very close.
Yeah.
But Big Daddy is definitely my favorite Sandler movie of all time. I don't think there's a one that comes close to it. Of course, Happy Gilmore, the longest yard, was also in consideration. So,
Hell yeah. Well, I got to put you on the spot. I know I didn't prep you, but what you got anything you seen recently? You got a favorite movie you watched recently? Maybe not even favorite, just anything you saw that was good.
I can't think of movies as of late. Maybe I think the last movie I did go and see was Jurassic Park. It's been a very slow movie season for me. I've been doing a lot of shows as of late, but not necessarily movies.
Fair enough. I'm a serial AMC A-lister over here, so every Wednesday you can catch me at the theater. I went to see Roofman a couple weeks ago, and that's one of the better movies I've seen this year. You know, it was nice and interesting and heartwarming. I don't know if that's the most high of praise this year. We haven't had the best movie year, but for those of you out there looking to spice up your weekend, it's not a bad opportunity. So, all right, CJ, I got 2 more Dynasty trades for you, and then we'll get you out of here, let you enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you so much for coming on the show, my friend. We've got a 12-team Superflex PPR. We're talking about Javonte Williams again, springboarding off that topic. Are you taking Javonte in a second, or are you taking Keon Coleman in a first and risking that Javonte just enters free agency next year?
That's a tough one, because that was my first thought, is you're going to have the hovering question of where does Javonte Williams go? I think at the very least, what you do have is you have the proof that Javonte Williams can do it. It's going to come down to what system he gets put in. I think the other thing that questions about this trade is where is that first? What year is it? How late or early is it? So I would need a little more detail on that before I make a decision. But just looking at a running back who's really young and got it, I do think, God, it's so tough to say Jerry Jones won't extend this man, but Jerry Jones has done dumber things.
Yes, he has.
I still think I'd put Javonte Williams in the second. I just don't like Keon Coleman. He's had one good game in his entire NFL career. Buffalo's offense is just, if you're not James Cook or Josh Allen, I don't want to be a part of it. Maybe Khalil Shakir and Dalton Kincaid. Kincaid's look good as of late. I'll take that back. I don't mind Dalton Kincaid. But the receivers, I'm just not in on a Buffalo wide receiver. I'm just not. I was hoping they bring in Olave at the deadline. I think that'd be a lot of fun. I don't think they will. But
oh, yeah. I mean, if you could get Olave or Jalen Waddle over in Buffalo, I think they'd have a field day, but unfortunately, it doesn't look like they seem too interested in making a move. You know, I am going to side with you here. I think there's times in Dynasty where you got to take a swing and, bet on the circumstance and hope you're right. I think we've seen Javonte Williams, as long as he can stay healthy the rest of the season here, put together probably his true breakout, coming a few years into the league, putting up a top 10 season, still being only 25, hopefully getting either a James Cook or a Kyron Williams style extension, 3-year, $11 million a year, something around that range. I would hope someone's willing to pay that. I think I'm going to roll the dice on Javonte here. And like you said, I think I've seen enough of the Keon Coleman experiment. All right, here's our last one. We're going to take it home. We got a 12-team Superflex, start 11, tight end premium 1.75 again. You got quite the haul on the first side with Jordan Love, Josh Jacobs, Garrett Wilson, and Tajay Spears moving for Chase Brown, Saquon Barkley, and Charbonnet. Where are you going with this one?
This is going to sound crazy because I know we see the big name on the other side of Saquon Barkley, but I think I'm going to take the Love, Jacobs, Wilson, Spears side, and I'm not going to look back. Yeah. I think that other side of the trade with Brown, Charbonnet, and Barkley is nothing besides, hey, here's the name value of Saquon Barkley. Remember when he ran for 2,000 yards? I'll take a haul for him still, even though he's been horrible. And I already spoke how I feel about Charbonnet and Chase Brown. And I'm very high on Tajay Spears. I took Tajay Spears in a rookie draft in the 3rd round 2 years ago. And that guy has been the taxi squad warrior. When they moved Derrick Henry and I thought Tajay Spears was going to be the guy, I was so excited. Then they bring in Tony Pollard. Spears gets hurt again. Now we're seeing the transition. Tajay Spears is rolling into that role that everyone thought he finally could. I think Pollard is going to get moved at the deadline. I think he's going to be the guy that gets traded. Yeah. Don't know where, but something tells me in my gut that he's the guy that could, end up in Arizona maybe. That sounds stupid.
That's a good shout out.
I see Pollard getting moved.
That's a good shout out. I have not heard a lot about the trade talk on Tony Pollard. I think this is the first time hearing somebody throw it out there, but I could see it. And you know what? I'm going to land with you here, CJ. I'm going to take the Jordan Love and Josh Jacobs side. I personally just think Barkley to Jacobs isn't that steep of a drop-off. And if I'm getting a quarterback plus Garrett Wilson coming back to me, I know I'm probably higher on Garrett than a lot of folks out there, but I think Garrett Wilson is in that conversation of, the top end dynasty wide receiver twos, like him and Ladd and Drake London. Those guys are all in a pretty similar category for me. So I think that's where we're at.
He's just had such a rough draw.
Totally. Talk about a guy who's had no real help and has still given you 150 target floor and, top 20 finish upside like every year. I'm with you. Imagine if they finally get a quarterback over there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They get a real quarterback and a real system. I mean, Garrett Wilson is going to be in that upper echelon of fantasy wide receivers.
Totally. All right. Well, hey, with that awesome roundup of the day, thank you so much again, CJ, for coming on the show. Before we hop on off, I want to give you a chance with the people here. Tell the people where they can find you, what they can expect from you, and how to support you.
Yeah. So, first of all, I appreciate you having me here. It was an absolute blast. For anyone who's looking for me in what I do, you can find me on TikTok at JBFFE. It's probably somewhere on there. It's got a cool little blue logo. I do some fantasy football coverage. It's a lot of fun. I do Dynasty trade talk. I do live streams on the Sundays to help you guys with starts and sits. And you can watch me scream whenever the Giants lose or my fantasy curses catch up to me, and I make really funny videos and edits to kind of follow those. But that's pretty much it. I like to talk fantasy football, and I'm honored to be here today. So appreciate everyone who watched.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on again, CJ. Guys, if you haven't already, go check CJ out over on TikTok. Drop him a follow. Tune into his coverage. Hell, if you need a great chef out there, he's a private chef. He's got an awesome catering business. If you want to support some fantasy football players with their own careers, go ahead, check him out. Send him a direct message. I'm sure he'll chef up your wedding or your grad party or anything you need. CJ, couldn't be more blessed to have you come on the show, man. This will not be our only time. I'm looking forward to having you back very soon. And thank you guys so much for coming along. I'm going to go ahead and end our recording here. And we'll catch you guys for Trade Titans episode 4 coming shortly.
See ya.